but I panic. um, because I looked at him, I looked into his eyes, and I knew that he knew all of the horrible things I had done.
Mm.
And I didn't want him near me. I had the urge to actually claw at his face, uh, which was mortifying afterwards. But at the time, I just was so scared of
Mm.
judgment, of his wrath.
Mm.
Um, and he didn't do anything. He just sat there and waited.
Mm.
And he just emanated peace. And eventually, I calmed down enough to realize that he wasn't trying to hurt me. I need another tissue, excuse me.
Hey, that should be a pre-qualification for all of these interviews. You have to have some tissue nearby.
Uh,
Uh, I've got mine, by the way. So please, so you're at the point now where you're before the Lord himself. He's right there, and you're
yes.
expecting judgment for all that you had done. The satanic cult, casting spells against Christians, all of these things. Even though you're saved, you're born anew at this point, it's still, you're expecting to be judged harshly.
Yes, yes. And I just kind of waited for the hammer to drop, like for him to send me away. But that didn't happen. What he actually did, what confused me for a split second, he was wearing robes, soft, like cream colored robes, and he pulled them apart. And it wasn't his chest there, it was a portal with all of creation inside. And I was mesmerized by that sight. And I completely forgot my fear. And I was leaning forward to look inside the portal because it was just beautiful and complex. Um, and he was just communicating that I am God, basically. It's just all he was communicating to me. Um, but it didn't fully click yet. It didn't, that part didn't click. And after he did that, he told me to look again, and he pulled the earth before us and had me watch it and have had everything going on in real time. We watched it. And he showed me how life was complex, and he placed everything on purpose for his purposes. That life was very precious to him. And well, that made me feel worse because I had not cherished life. I knew I had failed. And it was silent. There was no noise, and we sat in silence. And I'm looking at the earth, not wanting to look at him. And he eventually tells me to look at him. I very slowly obey. And I look into his eyes. And he wasn't condemning me. He was just, he was stern, but he wasn't angry. And he was just merciful. I don't, it was only love and power in his eyes. That was it.
Now you've got
Sorry.
me going, so because I've looked into those eyes. I know what you're talking
Yes,
about. Yes.
they're
Please continue.
clear and the clearest eyes I've ever seen. Um, Gosh, what happened after that?
It's almost as though nothing else matters, doesn't it?
No, it
When you
doesn't.
look into those eyes. Yes. Hmm. And everything else kind of evaporates beyond that. But at this point, things have kind of shifted for you because you were expecting to be judged, go before the judgment seat, and then rendering the judgment and found guilty. But
Right.
that wasn't going to be the case for you, was it?
Right. So when I saw my aunt, actually, I expected her to sort of guide me through heaven. I don't know. Being dead is strange. I didn't know what to expect. Uh, and at that point, I just figured God would send me wherever he was sending me, away in heaven to rest. Um, and so he surprised me with a choice to come back or go. And he told me, oh, well, first he explained a little bit about how free will fits into his overarching plan. That I could choose either, that it was all right if I chose either, that he wasn't going to be angry either way. He really emphasized that I had the free choice. And uh, so I chose to come back. And I asked him what I would be doing. Like, what did he want me to do? Because he said that he was sending me back to continue my mission. And I was like, okay, what's my mission? uh, but he didn't tell me. He told me that he would tell me at the time, the appropriate time to do what it was that he called me to do and to carry what he had set out for me to carry. So I was like, okay. At the time, I was not thrilled with that answer. um, but he was just so gentle about it. That was just completely no pressure, but very stern and unmoving at the same time. So he sent me back and I asked him if I could have as much time to do good as I had done evil. So he wanted me to really affirm in my heart to go back, not just make a head decision, but really want to go back. So he sent me back, and I woke up in the operating, or not the operating room, sorry, the ward, and I had an oxygen mask on. So I took that off and I freaked out because I couldn't breathe. So at some point I had stopped breathing, which I know I died, but I put it back on and I hear this voice from across the ward say, "Don't worry, God has great things for you." And so what I didn't tell you actually is before this, the year previous, I had attempted suicide. And I had been in Balboa Hospital. And I had heard that same voice say in that exact tone and cadence that phrase. So I tried to get up and look at the person because now I believe that was an angel reassuring me because I heard that voice in the hospital before. So,
I'm glad you interjected what it was prior to the experience, because
Mm.
just it seemed that Jesus had really allayed all of the guilt,
Mhm.
all of the, misgivings and about what you had done prior. And it kind of like he cleansed you of that and assured you
Yes.
that your slate had been wiped clean.
Yeah, I didn't really understand I'm gonna start crying again.
Mm,
I didn't understand at all what it was to be a Christian. Um, but Jesus really sort of hammered it home that all he wanted was a relationship. That's all he wants.
hmm
Um, we're his children, quite literally. And that's what he wants. He just wants us to love him back.
hmm
um,
I like to say that he wants to save us more than we want to save ourselves.
yes, that's true. Unfortunately, sometimes.
Yes. Well, that's absolutely incredible, because you were on the road now post your, what we call generally an afterlife experience with Jesus
Mhm,
in heaven, and now you're a different person. You met the King
mhm.
of Kings, the Lord of Lords, face to face. Now, I just draw attention, if I may, to the diametrical opposition between having met Satan himself and
Yeah.
meeting Jesus. How how diametrically opposed, how polar
Oh,
opposite can you get than those two?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was the so mm. Satan loves to try to puff himself up and bluster his way into I'm so powerful, meh, meh, meh. Jesus doesn't need to do any of that. He just is. He just is.
Yeah. He could, with his might, he could squish all of them, and he
Mhm.
will in time.
Yes.
That will happen. But his power is so much greater.
Mhm.
And I wonder at how these, now we have to keep in mind that angels have been around since the
Mm.
ancients for thousands of years. So their understanding of things are greater than ours. We've just been
Yeah.
living however long in our lives, right? But they've been living thousands of years. So we know that they know a great deal. They know how to get to us. They know how to, make us feel bad and all of those things.
Mm.
But God created the angels. The
Right.
angels are created beings. They're not.
Yes.
They're not from the beginning of time,
Mhm.
or before time, as God
Mm.
is. So now you're on this new path, and
Mhm.
you obviously you survived the surgery after
Yes.
flatlining. And tell us what happened subsequent to that. The angel had prayed for you and or assured you at that point in the
Mhm.
OR suite. So then what happened?
Uh, I was so I believe that the hospital was extremely negligent. Um, I was discharged the same day that I woke up.
Oh my.
And so uh I went home and I had a pretty long recovery. Uh but just one detail. God told me to eat to make sure I ate very well when I got
Oh.
home.
Uh-huh.
And there was the maid in the Bible that he ordered the same thing. He ordered for her to eat, which I
Mm-hmm.
found that very
Yes.
funny years later when I read that. Um, but I was going through a divorce. Um, husband left. I was getting out of the Marine Corps. I didn't have a job. And so because my husband didn't pay or my husband paid rent, so I was also homeless. So I decided that I would travel the country, moved up to Montana, and got baptized and really started to study the Bible and follow God the best I could. And I knew that was just a stopover, that he was calling me back east. And he sent me back east in 2020, and I found a wonderful church here and really started to try to pour myself completely into ministry and just serving God any way I can. So,
And you're ministering to youth as well?
Yep, I teach the littlest class, 3 to 5. So that's very fun.
Yes.
And I have an online blog. I've written a book. God's told me he has another book for me. So
tell us about that, where we can find you in that in the book.
Yeah, I have it. It's on Amazon. It's called Look What the Lord Has Done. And
we'll have the link of that to that book as well in the body of this message.
It's the first 2 chapters are my journey, what I just told you, and then the rest of the book is my journey at the last 5 years or so. God giving me dreams and visions, healing me. He's healed my back. He's healed me nerve damage, my feminine problems that caused the miscarriage. He healed me of. He's just been so good.
And where can we find your blog?
I'm on Quora, and my name on Quora is Ray, R-A-Y-S. So Ray S on Quora. And oh, sorry. That's more geared towards the people that have come from occult backgrounds. And I want them to know that it's safe to trust God. And there's no judgment from me from whatever they've done. So yeah.
It's important. It's important. There are more people than we know, I think, realize oftentimes who are involved in this, either wittingly or unwittingly. You know, there are people who are unwittingly or at the effect of the powers, principalities, spirits of darkness. You know, God made us to accept him. The angels, when they were made by God, they could only reject him. So he wants us to willfully accept him, doesn't he?
Yes.
He won't impede our will. So
no.
You've got to cry out. You've got to call out and ask for him. As a former agnostic, I was, Renee, I got Christians off of campuses. I tried to disprove them at Christianity at a major university.
Yeah.
And I realized that when you seek the truth, as I said, God, you need to show up. And I can't accept, the Bible, that there has to be an earnest call out to God and to find him. It's just not just a flippant, God, you either show up. You really have to have an earnestness in asking him to appear or to reveal himself to us.
Yeah, it's very important to have that objective seeking for the real truth, what the truth is. And I don't think that if you're truly seeking the truth, God will be there.
Yes.
He will meet you there.
Well, Jesus said that himself in John chapter 8, verse 32. And you shall know the truth, he said, and the truth shall set you free. So many people, they're seeking after something which is not an earnest effort to seek after the truth. They're just seeking after what they believe is true. But one has to keep an open mind whether you're of a different religion or whether you're, in a cult or whatever it is, you really can't settle for anything but the absolute truth.
Yep.
He is the way and the truth.